Hey, I'm Woody Wyatt, and these are my thoughts on every new album that I heard in the past few weeks. Just quickly, before we get started, I thought I'd let you know that System of a Down albums ranked is still happening and will probably be recorded next week. I've actually already done a poll on my Instagram for what band you guys want to see me rank after System of a Down, and you guys voted Weezer. I'll try to get that ranking out before the end of October, but I'm not making any promises. But anyway, we have 10 albums to talk about, and I'm gonna review them all, starting with the new 21 Pilots album titled Breach. Truth be told, I've never really gotten the hate around 21 Pilots. Well, okay, I guess I kind of see it. They can be very cringy and over the top and pretentious, but I honestly have always kind of had this certain level of admiration for this band. It mostly comes from the fact that there aren't really any other bands like them. Especially in the mainstream, you aren't gonna mistake a 21 Pilots song for a song from any other band. And in my opinion, they've got a lot better over the years. I think that Trench is a great album. I thought that Clancy was also pretty good. And this new album, Breach, is pretty great too. Highlights include the very bright and poppy Days Lie Dormant, the very dramatic drum show, the opening track, which continues 21 Pilots' streak of releasing great opening tracks. That being said, there are definitely some problems with this album still, and they are kind of the same problems as any other 21 Pilots album. For one thing, I still think that Tyler Joseph can't really rap. For a band that take themselves as seriously as 21 Pilots do, he kind of raps like he's writing a bad kids TV theme.
It might be the furthest we've reached, now move it up, it's a breach.
This is how the story goes, we find out by the treasure in the grand line, there's no doubt.
Also, while this is one of 21 Pilots' better albums, it's also the one that gives me the least to talk about. Like, pretty much every 21 Pilots song, whether I love it or I hate it, gives me something to talk about. This is definitely the album with the most filler. But even with all that being said, this is still one of 21 Pilots' better albums, even if it's not like their absolute peak.
Everybody laughs and everybody cries, everybody lives and everybody dies.
Coming up next, we got the new David Byrne album titled Who Is the Sky? Now, do not get me wrong here, I love David Byrne. The Talking Heads are one of my all-time favorite bands, David Byrne is one of my all-time favorite vocalists, Remain in Light is one of the greatest albums ever made. I love the Talking Heads. I'm not a big fan of David Byrne's solo stuff though. It's not that I don't like it, I just really haven't heard much of it. This is actually the first David Byrne solo album that I've heard in full. And overall, it's fine, if maybe a bit too silly for my taste. Like, you know those songs that are so annoyingly upbeat and happy that they get on your nerves? Stuff like Walking on Sunshine, Can't Stop the Feeling. Yeah, that's 99% of this album. I mean, I guess I really shouldn't expect a new David Byrne album to be groundbreaking and experimental. I mean, this guy's getting old. Let's just let him have his fun. But would I actually choose to listen to this album? Probably not. I'm actually seeing David Byrne live in a few months, and I am actually interested to hear how these songs sound in that context. But just as an album, this thing didn't really work for me. I do think that the orchestra on this album did a pretty good job, all things considered. Just overall, as an album, this thing's just kind of eh.
Welcome to the hell we're living in, at the ending of the world we're witnessing.
Next up, we've got the new album from Grandson titled Inertia, and I never thought I'd ever say this, I actually really like the new Grandson album. I am not kidding when I say that for a good while, I absolutely despised this guy. He was in that whole scene with like Imagine Dragons and 21 Pilots and bands like that, except the big difference between them and Grandson is that those guys didn't give me a fucking headache.
Riptide for too long, 'cause it's all I know.
I genuinely find his music to be the most overstimulating, overwhelming shit possible. But then with this new album, he kind of toned it back a little bit, started taking more influence from nu metal and bands like Linkin Park, and it's actually pretty good. I mean, I do still have some problems with how on-the-nose Grandson's political commentary can be. It often feels like he's just reading off Twitter. He doesn't really tell you anything you haven't heard a billion times before. I actually agree with everything he's saying, I just feel like it's a bit cliche. Still, I'm honestly really impressed by this thing. While I was listening for the first time, I started to think to myself, has Grandson been this good the whole time? Was I not giving him enough credit? And so I went back to listen to that older stuff and oh god no, this still is awful. Honestly, great job to Grandson for this album. I'm so glad he's doing this and not that. But yeah, not gonna lie, I'm honestly really impressed by this thing. Good job, Grandson. You don't make my ears bleed anymore. That sounded like more of a compliment in my head, I'm sorry. Coming out next, we got the new album from Shame titled Cutthroat. I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually a really big fan of Shame. I mean, I saw them supporting the Foo Fighters live, and while their set was fairly short, they were one of the best support acts I think I've ever seen. Plus, I think that Songs of Praise and Drunk Tank Pink are both great albums. Food for Worms, while not as good, was also still pretty great. I didn't love this new one though. I don't exactly think that Shame quote unquote fell off. I mean, let's be honest here, no band is consistently perfect. Every band eventually releases the shit album, the album that the fans deem worse than everything else. So I'm sure that whenever Shame release their next album, it will be a billion times better than this one. But still, this thing was just not very good. One of my favourite things about Shame is that they're kind of the post-punk band with the most punk influence. Like, they are just as experimental as your average post-punk band, your average windmill band, except a lot more aggressive, a lot more intense. It was what I loved about Idols back in the day before they kind of went all atmospheric and shit. This album, on the other hand, kind of just feels like a straightforward indie rock album. Like, this album feels a lot more melodic, a lot more safe, probably the most unoriginal thing this band has ever put out. While there are a few good songs on here, by the time you get to the latter half of this album, it gets pretty unbearable. This album is up there with Some Nights by Fun as one of the most front-loaded albums I think I've ever heard. Just in general, I love Shame, but this album really didn't work for me. And I really hope they can improve on this on the next album. Coming up next, we got the new album from Fleshwater titled 2000 In Search of the Endless Sky. Fleshwater are a band that I have heard a lot of hype around. They're one of those bands that mixes metal with shoegaze. And overall, I do think I get the appeal of this band, and I have liked stuff from them in the past. They're just not really a band I return to very often in my own time. A while ago, I checked out their last EP, Sounds of Grieving, and I remember really enjoying it, but I really haven't returned to it since. I think my big problem with this band, compared to a lot of other bands mixing hardcore and metal with shoegaze and more atmospheric elements, is that they kind of lean more into one side than the other. They kind of lean more on the more pretty, atmospheric side of things. And it's just not really something I tend to listen to. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like shoegaze. It's just the big problem is, it's kind of like the salt of music genres. I mean, I like salt. I like when you put salt on other things, but I wouldn't want to just eat salt by itself. And I have enjoyed tons of albums from bands that mix other genres with salt. Wait, shit, I mean shoegaze. But just kind of on its own, this genre does honestly bore me. And this album in particular pretty much gets rid of all of the heavy elements this band once had. This is a full-on shoegaze album. And as an album, this thing just isn't very memorable to me. None of the choruses really get stuck in your head. None of the riffs feel very memorable. It's just kind of another generic shoegazy kind of album. Then again, maybe I'm just not the right person to be talking about this band. This whole style isn't really for me. I don't know, if you guys ever meet a Fleshwater fan, go up to them, ask them their opinions on this album specifically, and then please get back to me. I'd love to know what other people think of this album. Before we continue, I just want to quickly give a shout out to an up-and-coming band you guys should definitely be into. Introducing 7 Celsius. You guys ever met one of those assholes who says that they hate all modern music, all electronic music, all hip-hop music because they don't use real instruments? Well, if you know someone like that, here's what you're gonna do. First off, you're gonna punch him in the face. Second off, you're gonna punch him in the face again. I'm sorry, I really hate people that think like this. They really piss me off. And finally, you're gonna recommend that they get into 7 Celsius. 7 Celsius are a band from Brighton who make drum and bass mixed with hip-hop with absolutely no electronic elements. This band are only just starting out and have no music on streaming. So for those of you that kind of want a general idea of what their sound sounds like, here's a few clips. For those of you in the Brighton area, they have a gig in 5 days at 7 PM at the Rossi Bar with support from Brook Dawn and Green Eye. It's only £3 per ticket, so if you have nothing else to do on that day, I highly recommend going to the link in the description of this YouTube video and buying yourself a ticket to that gig. As for 7 Celsius specifically, they're a great band and they are definitely worth your time. Feel free to check out their TikTok, that will also be in the description of this YouTube video. Shut up, conscience. Shut Coming up next, we got the new album from Big Thief titled Double Infinity. So I've got a lot of friends that want to know my thoughts on Big Thief, so this is just my general consensus on them, my overall thoughts on this band. They're pretty good. I'm not like the biggest fan of them, but I've enjoyed my fair share of stuff from Masterpiece and Dragon You Warm. The thing is, I'm not really a big fan of indie folk, but I feel like what has always appealed to me about Big Thief more than other artists is two things. One, they're a lot more intense. Like, their music's often a lot darker, a lot heavier, thematically and sonically, than a lot of other indie folk artists. And two, Adrian Lenker is just a phenomenal vocalist. I've always been really impressed with just how emotionally raw both her songwriting and her vocals have always been. And this new album is pretty great too, even if it's not like their best or anything. I don't know, after how great their last album was, this one does feel like a bit of a disappointment, but it's not like the worst thing we've ever heard. It's actually one of the better albums we've talked about in this video so far. I don't know, I feel like if I ever did Big Thief albums ranked, then this album would be lower on the list, it would be closer to the bottom. But then again, Big Thief don't really have any, like, actively bad albums yet. The only real critique I have of this album is it's probably the Big Thief album out of all the ones I've heard with the least standout songs on it. Like, the songs are a lot less catchy, there isn't really an obvious single like there has been for almost every other Big Thief album, at least in my opinion. But I'm kind of just nitpicking here. Overall, this is a pretty good album from Big Thief, and yet another example of them being consistently good, even if it isn't exactly, like, mind-blowing or anything.
Niggas, please stand up. Please stand up.
Coming up next, we've got the new album from Horror titled Tomorrow We Escape. And look, I know I've been fairly critical in these last few videos where I'm talking about new releases. I know I haven't really given too much praise to any new albums. But that changes right now, because oh my god, this thing is awesome. Funnily enough, I had never heard of this band before checking out this album, and it just fucking blew me away. This band's sound mixes hardcore punk with industrial hip-hop, and what you're left with is like Death Grips if they were a rock band, or Bob Vylan if they were weirder. It is awesome. It's chaotic in all of the best ways. I mean, this album isn't perfect. At points it could feel a bit too chaotic, and this album's incredibly inconsistent. Like, this band pretty much swaps genre on every single song, and it makes you kind of wonder what the overall idea of this album was. But if you can ignore that, this is one of the most interesting albums we have got in ages. There's so many good songs on this one as well. I mean, come on, Escape, Incline, Target Practice, Immortal, the list goes on. I will admit, while this album isn't perfect, there isn't really a single, like, actively bad song on here. For as much tonal whiplash as there is on this album, I feel like if you listen to these songs separately, you'll get a much better experience. Overall, I loved this thing. I would definitely recommend it. Go listen to Horror. I have no clue why Horror is spelt like this in their band name, but still, great album. Definitely would recommend. Coming up next, we got the new album from Jade titled That's Showbiz Baby. There's been a lot of hype surrounding this album, especially in the UK, critics talking about how former Little Mix member suddenly releases an experimental pop album. And I feel like I should be more impressed than I actually am. I don't know, maybe the idea of an artist on a major label making commercial pop music suddenly going experimental just isn't novel to me anymore. This has been happening ever since Charlie XCX released that Vroom Vroom EP back in, what, like 2017? This album's fine, and it's definitely better than anything she did for her older group, but it's still a bit disappointing. For one thing, there were 6 singles released off this album, and they're pretty much the only good songs on here. That's always a bad sign, isn't it? When all the good songs off an album are the songs that we've already heard before. But overall, I feel like my biggest problem with this album is it's just not that interesting. Like, the promotion around this album would make you think it's some big, ambitious statement, but it's kind of just another fairly forgettable pop album. I don't know, maybe the next album will be better. Overall, this one is just kind of okay. Coming up next, we've got the new album from Unörthodox titled Live at Hydrus Live. This is a live recording from a punk band in Brighton called Unörthodox. My old music college was in Brighton, so I've kind of been introduced to a lot of bands from that area that way. Most of them so incredibly small scale that with Unörthodox, I actually DM'd them and asked them if I could review their album. And overall, now that I've heard this album, I actually really like it. Though I can admit, it is very messy. However, it's kind of messy in a way that adds charm to it. The best comparison I can think of is it's kind of like the really early stuff from Ween, you know, stuff stuff like Godween Satan and those really early bootlegs. You know, the stuff where it was pretty much just them dicking around and it was a lot less polished, but that was kind of the appeal of it. There are mistakes throughout this album, and yet they all kind of add to the appeal of this thing, which is that it's fucking fun. You can genuinely tell just how much fun this was to make, and it adds so much to the appeal. Plus, these songs are just genuinely really well written. They're catchy, their riffs are fairly memorable. Lyrically, this band are very funny. Like, there's literally a song on here about monkeys wanking.
This one's about monkeys coming, monkeys wanking, monkeys buffing into mum's face!
Look, just overall, this album is not going to be for everyone. It's a very, like, specific niche audience that would enjoy something like this. But if you're a punk fan, or if you just enjoy messy, chaotic music, this is something I'd definitely recommend. And finally, we've got the new album from Ed Sheeran titled Play. Ugh, fucking Ed Sheeran, man, honestly.
I fucking hate Ed Sheeran.
I mean, I guess he started off well enough. He had some potential. He was a fairly interesting songwriter who wrote songs that pretty much no one else could pull off. But pretty much everything that was good about Ed Sheeran is gone now. I guess he did start moving in the right direction on those last two albums. They were certainly not as bad as fucking Equals and the No. 6 Collaborations project. Those things were abysmal. But his last two albums kind of showed him moving in the right direction. But then you get this new one, and ugh, it's awful. It is so bad. Pretty much every song sounds worse than the last. There's so much god-awful, just synthetic as fuck sounding production on this. For a guy that's whole thing is that he's down to earth and relatable, this album sounds so manufactured he may as well have named it Human Music. These songs are so fucking generic. It's like Ed Sheeran got replaced by a version of ChatGPT where the G stands for ginger. Maybe I'm a bit biased against Ed Sheeran. I'm fucking British. This guy's the most overplayed artist in the country, probably. Hell, River by Eminem went to #1 in the UK because it had Ed Sheeran on it. Have you ever listened to River?
He just shit on my last chick and she has what my ex lacks.
Yeah, a song that bad went to #1 in the UK because it had this guy on it. Actually, no, I don't want to call this just bias, because I have genuinely enjoyed Ed Sheeran stuff in the past, especially his really early stuff. Maybe I'm just blinded by nostalgia, but that early stuff genuinely did have some appeal to it. This album, on the other hand, is absolute shite. Probably one of the worst albums that I have heard all year. And with that, those are my thoughts on all the new releases that I heard in the past 2 weeks.